I'm with Stuart Ashton from Blackmagic Design, and we're going to be talking about Ultra HD, a couple of new cameras, and Resolve 10.
NAB is brought to you by XFX, Final Cut Pro 10 plugins from industrialrevolution.com.
Okay, Stuart, I mean the buzzword is 4K or Ultra HD. Can you tell us a bit more?
Sure. I think what we started to see over the last few months is that Ultra HD is becoming more prominent in this industry. At CES earlier in the year, a large number of the screen manufacturers were announcing Ultra HD screens. What's fantastic about that is it means that you can basically view very high resolution images over HDMI. But also as well, in a broadcast term, we need to think about how we're going to deliver Ultra HD to the homes out, the homes in the world. So what we've done is we've come up with a technology which is 6 gig SDI, which enables you to be able to transfer video across a single SDI cable. And then around that 6 gig SDI technology, we've announced a whole load of new products which all fit into that Ultra HD range.
Okay, the first one we're standing right next to, which is the 4K Blackmagic Cinema Camera.
Yep.
Tell us a bit more, and obviously in relation to Final Cut Pro 10, because as we know, Final Cut Pro 10 handles 4K easily, and obviously the metadata.
Yeah, I mean, last year obviously we announced the 2.5K camera, and everybody was a bit shocked last year at what we'd done. And this year I think people are anticipating, would we do an Ultra HD or a 4K camera? And this is it. I mean, I guess the first thing to say is that for most people who have seen the original camera, the actual form factor doesn't change too much. It's what's actually inside the camera which makes this special. The main features that obviously we need to talk about is sensor size. That's something that people have been going, well, okay, if we're going to do a 4K camera, how big's that sensor? And for this camera, it's a super 35mm sensor, but also it's got a global shutter as well, which means that you don't get any of the moire, distortion and rolling shutter issues that you might find. In addition to that as well, we've also put 6 gig SDI out there as well, so we can play live directly from the camera, Ultra HD. We've also put 2 codecs on there. We've got ProRes 4K, and we've also got a visually lossless Cinema DNG RAW as well. So anybody who's working in a RAW environment and maybe working with Resolve, our colour corrector, will be very familiar with the RAW workflow.
Sure.
It's got 12 stops of dynamic range, which means you've got a very wide latitude. So when you're actually going in and you're working on those images in a colour correction process, you're able to apply a huge amount of detail.
So the 4K ProRes I can take straight into Final Cut.
Absolutely.
And work with it straight away.
Absolutely. This is what's fantastic about this camera, because the flexibility doesn't just reside in how the camera looks and how the camera feels, but the flexibility of codecs, the way in which we can record. It's got a Thunderbolt device on the Thunderbolt connection on the side. It's got SSD drive on the side here, so we can actually record those files directly to the SSD. So really you've got a whole feature-packed camera there which would integrate perfectly with your Final Cut Pro 10 workflow.
And no surprise that the metadata that the camera records is very much like the metadata in Final Cut Pro 10.
Sure.
I would imagine it just takes it all over into 10.
Yeah, when we started the development of the camera last year on the 2.5K, we started to look at the way people work and what people need in that edit environment. I think that as a company that's come from its post-production roots, we've been looking at the back forward as opposed from the front to the back.
Yeah.
So we approach things in a very different way.
It's nice to think of people thinking of editors, because normally being an editor myself, I'm always the last person on the list.
Well,
the camera guys get everything. Well, editors, oh, you fix it.
Well, the good thing is for you and I mean, my background's an editor as well.
Right.
And I used to hate the terminology, we'll fix it in post. So from our point of view, we're trying to fix it earlier. We're trying to give all of the information, the metadata available to the camera guy, so that when he then brings that in, it makes the editor's life easier.
Sure. Okay. That's camera number 1. Now, when I first saw this, it was on a computer screen, and I actually was completely amazed. And you're holding it in your hands here.
Yeah, this is the Pocket Cinema Camera, and the first thing you'll notice, if I put this side by side to the new 4K camera, you'll see there's a huge difference in size.
Yeah.
What we've got to consider with this camera is the first mistake that people might make is, oh, it's just another video camera that shoots 1080p. It's not the truth. This is an incredibly powerful piece of equipment. This has a super 16mm lens inside, so sensor inside, with an active micro 4/3 mount, which means that you can interchange all of your lenses. It means that you're shooting digital film quality at super 16 standard. But also as well, it's got 13 stops of dynamic range, which means that again, when we go into that colour correction process and we're looking at the detail, the contrast ratio, you'll be able to see a huge amount of sharpness and detail in there. when we actually look at the form factor of the camera, we've kept the similar connections along the side with the output settings and the headphone and audio settings. It's just a couple of minor differences in that this is obviously HDMI out, mini HDMI out. We've still got remote on there as well, which means if you want to put this on a rig, or if you want to put this in an underwater housing, or you want to strap it to a bandstand whilst you were filming a concert.
I mean, I hate to use the word disposable, but if you wanted to use it on, so if you needed to put a camera in an environment that if it actually got trashed, it wouldn't be the end of the world, then that's actually...
Yeah, I mean, I certainly think as a crash cam, it's very, very applicable. I mean, obviously we'd cry a little bit if we start to see bits of these kind of floating around, after being broken. But I think that what we've done is try to create a very compact, very small unit that gives you all of the high quality that's required when looking for a cinematic look. Yeah. And you only have to actually see the output of this camera to just see how amazing those images are.
I would imagine a good use of it would be maybe recording interviews. You could have the main one, either the 2K or the 4K recording, and then have one of these just set up running as another camera angle on, recording an interview. And hopefully the two would look very, very similar because they're recording the same format.
Exactly. I think that the compact size of it gives it a lot of flexibility in where and how you want to use it. I think that you also can think of the times where maybe it's not suitable to walk around with a large camera. Let's say we've gone to a carnival for the day, we want to film in a carnival, or let's say there's some form of news gathering that's required and you want to capture sharp images, but you don't want to be pulling out a large camera. So we can see it in that environment. But I think also another thing is that when you think about the guys like you and I who may be a bit geeky when we go on holiday and we decide that, we want to actually go and shoot some beautiful things, but the wife won't let us take the tripod and take a big bag full of lenses.
I've already had somebody email me saying, it's really handy, I'm thinking of buying one for exactly that reason.
Yeah, and I think that, I did exactly this the other day, in that I was actually away on holiday for a week, and I took a cinema camera with me, and I always knew that the end result I was always going to deliver in HD. And I didn't actually need the 2.5K, and I think that for me what was important was that dynamic range and how beautiful those images would look. And in my case, looking back now, I wish I would have taken this, because I could have just put this in my pocket and taken it everywhere with me.
Yeah, we attended the press briefing on Monday, and Grant Petty said that he had the camera, this one at Christmas, filming his kids, and you can see all the detail, but you could also see outside the windows. So, and that gives an example of the dynamic range that you can get out of it.
Yeah, and I also think what's also flexible with this is that it goes to an SD card, which means that I can take the SD card out of the camera, I can put that straight into my MacBook Air, and I can start working on that in Final Cut Pro 10, without even having to wait for transcoding or having to copy across to shared storage or whatever. It's very, very simple and easy to use.
So there's a couple of options you can record it. It's 1920 by 1080.
That's right.
ProRes 422.
That's right. HQ.
And then you've got the option to do the cinema.
Yeah. So it's a visually lossless cinema DNG, which is basically a RAW file. So it's frame based. So it appears like frames, but also as well it's retaining all of that metadata, all of the information. When we talk about RAW, we talk about it as it's a bit like looking at the Matrix. It's all kind of numbers, and it sounds a bit daunting. But when you actually take that into a powerful color corrector like DaVinci Resolve, you can do all the debayering, and you can get all that information, and you can apply all those looks, and you're retaining every single bit of raw information.
Brilliant. Okay, great. And we're just going to have a quick look at Resolve 10.
Yeah.
Right, we're in front of DaVinci Resolve 10. Some new features, especially in relation to Final Cut Pro 10.
Absolutely. There's sort of three main features this year which we're talking about. One is the introduction of an online editor inside Resolve. Another is the open effects, so working with Sapphire effects, and also as well Resolve Live. I think the thing that kind of captured people's imagination straight away was online editor. Does that mean now I have to throw away my old NLE, and what does that mean for all those other NLEs out there? And I just want to kind of make it very clear that I suppose that when we look at the term online editor, we look at how that is interacting with other NLEs. If you look at, say, Final Cut Pro 10 as an example, it gives you the ability to be able to pass a project from Final Cut Pro 10 into Resolve, continue working within Resolve, but then send obviously that information back. So if you're working with multiple editors, let's say we've got 4 editors out there and we're doing a major conform within Resolve, it means if one of those editors needs to do a re-edit on something, I can send that one bit back but continue to edit. So it's really about making it a finishing tool rather than actually having it competing against a traditional editor.
Yeah, it's not something you want to sit down and cut a documentary on.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, you know, this is really about ensuring that you're keeping the speed going, which is what everyone talks about. It's all about ensuring that you move quickly and you're able to deliver content in the quickest way, because obviously time is money. The great thing again with Resolve is it means that you could work in a raw workflow entirely through the editing process. So let's say that you ingest obviously raw files into Resolve. I can start the process of editing that. I can put together my sequence, and then if I want to deliver that, I can then deliver that through the DCP settings, which now are available within Resolve 10.
Right, and the light version's still free, so you can download that from the App Store now as well.
Yeah, that's right.
So you don't need it if you've got the Pocket Camera, because that's $19.20.
Yep.
And then the full version, that's $9.99?
Yeah, so it's $9.99 for the Resolve software. As you say, you can download the software for Resolve Lite on the App Store or also on the Blackmagic website. Obviously there's a lot of content and information out there as well if people want to learn more about Resolve.
Brilliant, thanks very much.
No problem.
NAB is brought to you by XFX, Final Cut Pro 10 plugins from industrialrevolution.com.